Friends, colleagues, thinkers, dreamers, we stand at the precipice of a new era, an era where the very definition of intelligence is being challenged and redefined. For centuries, we have pondered the nature of thought, the spark of consciousness, the very essence of what makes us human. Now we dare to ask, can we replicate that essence? Can we build a mind not of flesh and blood, but of silicon and code? The philosophy of artificial intelligence grapples with questions that strike at the heart of understanding of ourselves. Can machine truly think? Can it solve problem a human can simply by thinking? Is our brain in its integrate complexity, is it that different than a machine? Is it merely a very complex machine made up of biological components? And the most centralizing question of all, can a machine process a mind with its attendant consciousness, feelings, and qualia? Can it feel the redness of neck, the sting of loss, the joy of discovery? This is something a previous generation would have never thought of, that these are the questions we will be asking ourselves. Some, like the great Alan Turing, propose a simple test. If a machine acts intelligently enough to fool us, should we not grant it the same status as human? The Dartmouth proposal boldly declared that every facet of learning and intelligence can be so precisely described that a machine can simulate it. Newell and Simon championed the physical symbol system hypothesis, suggesting that manipulating symbols is the key to general intelligence. John Sarley, with his strong AI hypothesis, argued that a correctly programmed computer with right inputs and outputs is a mind in the same way that we are. But these proposals are not without their detractors. The ghost of dualism still haunt the debate. Can a computation genuinely give rise to a brain, right? Can a computation genuinely give rise to thinking? Critics point to the limitation of symbolic processing, the seeming impossibility of replicating the intuitive. So there is something inherently new here, right? Gödel's incompleteness theorems are invoked to argue against mechanical view, while Dreyfus emphasizes the primacy of embodied, situated cognition. Sarley's Chinese room thought experiment, which I hope many of you know, if you don't, please search them or ask a large language model about it, throws a gauntlet. Can a system that manipulates symbols according to rules without understanding their meaning truly be said to understand? The responses are fierce and varied, highlighting deep divisions in our understanding of mind and machine. Is thinking simply a form of computation? Can machine truly have emotions? Can it be self-aware? Can it be creative, original, benevolent, or chillingly hostile? During my work at the University of Texas at Austin, where I had collaborated with NYU Professor John Renzel of mathematics, and Dane Chetkovich, who was then at Northwestern in cell biology, the mathematical part, we took it for granted the neurons are computation devices. I recorded trains of input, found out how they work in microseconds, not in milliseconds. Now, most of the brain works in millisecond range. I looked at some millisecond computation, which involves sound localization. We took it for granted. Brain and its components, the nuts and bolts, neurons, synapses, underlying proteins, ion channels such as low voltage potassium channel, HCN channels that I worked on and collaborated extensively to model whether it's a single neuron, which we publish, and the politics of science, which prevented a multi-compartmental model from being published. Um, all of it was given that a component works that way. When I worked on behavior of flies, uh, looked at AI to analyze their behavioral patterns, it was clear to me we are dealing with computations in very complex way, but they were computations. Uh, those who come from philosophical background, especially those who come from religious background, may have problems seeing things that way. They may not see it in that way, and I think there is room for everyone. But think about how these questions have come to be, right? Now, we should see things in the broader context. The broader context was set up essentially by Descartes and his dualism, which, in my opinion, created a lot of problems. But there was someone who's very well celebrated, but not as much as he should be, is Julian Offray telemetry. He becomes profoundly relevant. Lametry, with his bold assertion that man is a machine, challenged the prevailing dualistic view of mind and body. While he was extreme materialist, he in fact even interpreted Descartes in a materialistic way. Um, in our quest to create AI, in fact, AGI or super AGI, revisiting Lametry's arguments, but on a vastly different scale, are very relevant. We are not just asking whether mind is a machine, we are asking whether we can build one. And I strongly believe we can indeed build one, and there are people building different levels of mind. We'll soon build bigger, better minds. And by bigger, I just don't mean data centers of the size of Manhattan. Maybe they'll one day be size of human skull. They will achieve the microminiaturization and the energy consumption that a biological brain has. That's what at least my ambition is, given my training in neuroscience, AI, mathematics, and a few other disciplines. Makes me sleep only a few hours a night, keeps me up thinking, how can I build that? And that is this podcast essentially is partly a result of that. Let's look at the journey. The journey ahead is going to be fraught with challenges, but it has also immense possibilities. Let's embrace this challenge with courage, with curiosity, and with deep sense of responsibility. For the future of both humanity and AI depends on the choices we make today. Let us debate, but let us also keep making progress. Let questions be asked. Let us strive to understand nature of intelligence, both human and artificial, in all its consciousness. In our quest to create artificial intelligence, we are, in a sense, revisiting Lametry's arguments, but on a vastly different scale. So let's look at few things. What were things of Lametry which sort of made him different? He was born in 17th century. He was a physician, scientist, but more importantly, a philosopher who looked at human condition with unflinching eyes. He saw intricate workings of body, delicate dance of cause and effect, and he arrived at conclusion that shook the very core of established view. There is no soul, no ghost in the machine. We are, he argued, complex animals governed by the same physical laws as are other creatures. Imagine the audacity of such a statement in 18th century. The world, steeped in religious dogma, where the soul was divine spark that separated humanity from the beasts. Lametry, with his physician's scalpel and philosopher's mind, dissected these sacred notions, laying bare the material reality of human existence. He basically put thought, emotion, consciousness itself as products of body, not as ethereal substance. His magnum opus, La Homme Machine, became the battle cry for materialists. a scandal for the devout. It was gauntlet thrown down the feet of dualism, the long held belief in the separation of mind and body. Lametri argued that mental processes were directly linked to physical states. A fever could the mind, the blow to the head could alter personality. Anything could alter personality if it affected on the material conditions, which were the brain. There was no immortal soul in all of this. His views were so incendiary that he was forced to flee his homeland, which was France, seeking refuge in more tolerant climate of Prussia. Even there, his ideas sparked heated debate. But Lametri remained unbowed, champion of reason and observation. That was a time where scientists lived and died for truth, not academic scientists doing petty politics over publications and fudging data. Lametri was not just a cold, calculating mechanist, he was also a hedonist. He believed that life should be all about pursuit of pleasure. This too caused outrage. How dare he suggest that happiness, earthly delight, could be the ultimate goal of human existence? Yet in his hedonism, we see not crude indulgence, but a recognition of our animal nature, an acceptance of our embodied existence. Lametri's legacy is complex and multifaceted. He was pioneer of materialism, a forerunner of modern neuroscience. He challenged us to think of our place in the universe, to abandon comforting illusions and embrace the reality of our physical universe, to uh, physical existence. He dared to ask, if we are machines, what kind of machines are we? What are our capabilities? What are our responsibilities? His work remains relevant today as we grapple with implications of artificial intelligence, as we try to understand the nature of consciousness itself. Lametri's questions are still our questions. His challenges to dualism are still being debated. He reminds us that the search for truth, however uncomfortable, is a journey worth taking. Let us remember Julien Offray de Lamettrie, the man who dared to say, "We are machines." And in that very fact lies our potential, our complexity, and our profound, beautiful earthly existence. Lamettrie was a materialist who argued that human beings are essentially complex machines. This should be something that should stay with you. This is something that you should think about when thinking of designing AI. Let's also ask, what were Lamettrie's beliefs, interpretations, statements which led to um, our current state of AI? I would urge everyone who's listening to this that everyone should read La Homme Machine, Man, a Machine. And if one doesn't have the patience to read the whole book, at least read its summary, and it'll raise more questions than it'll answer, and that's a sign of a genuinely profound book. His contributions extend to challenging dualism and embracing mechanism. I have discussed that enough. Um, his ideas also led to the concept of machine, that human brain is a machine, and obviously it has huge implications for AI and robotics. Um, then there are implications of embedded intelligence, and it has huge implications for robotics. He has shaped the philosophy of AI, and in fact, his work, where he didn't imagine several hundreds of years ago to be shaping cybernetics, has been profoundly influential in early cybernetics as well. So let us think about modern discussions on the nature of intelligence, ethics of AI. Okay, when we are designing a future, and this future has been brought to you by immensely important thinkers, many of them, most of them, product of Renaissance industrial age, age of exploration, and then a lot of epicenter of discovery shifted from Europe to North America, also New World. And Europe was contributing heavily, if you think of Alan Turing and era around 1950s. Recently, it had slowed down, and almost all major innovation was happening from US. Uh, there was some competition by this with the Soviet bloc, and then there has been recent rise of China. There's potential of a lot of countries, and probably smartly realized by working, in my opinion, with democratic forces, with the forces shaping AI based in US or Europe. But that's my personal view. People can have different opinions on how best will be the future of AI. It will definitely not be a single stream, but when you do so, think of profound thinkers like La Mettrie. Thank you. I'm Sukant Khurana. I hope you keep listening to this podcast on nature of AI, philosophy of AI, influences of AI, and daily happenings of AI. Thank you.